See you. Good. All right, good evening. Let's try that again. Good evening. I'm Chuck Bean. I'm the Executive Director of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, and I'm pleased to welcome you to a regional conversation with Amazon. To start things off, let me introduce George Mason University President, Angel Cabrera, our gracious host for tonight's event. President Cabrera is in his 7th year at the helm of this institution, a truly regional asset which boasts more than 37,000 students from 130 countries. Dr. Cabrera.
Do I have? Yeah. Just a quick word to welcome all of you to this event, but very importantly, just a reminder that you're right now in the largest, fastest growing, and coolest university in Virginia. And as the chief of such an organization, I'm delighted to offer my very warm welcome to the largest, fastest growing, and coolest iconic company of our time, Amazon. So I think there's a match that was meant to happen. And just a quick thought about Amazon's decision. The most interesting and vibrant hubs in the world, not just in the United States, but around the world, increasingly are characterized by symbiosis between top-level research universities and innovation-driven organizations. There would be no Silicon Valley without that symbiosis. There would be no Seattle, Washington without symbiosis. Or there would be no Zurich in Europe, or no Austin. We have an incredible concentration of world-class research universities in Greater Washington. George Mason is one of them. We are the youngest Research One university in the country, and we're one of our top 300 world universities. But we have GW and Georgetown and University of Maryland College Park across the river. And if you extend the region the way the Greater Washington Partnership does, all the way to from Baltimore to Richmond, you add another 2 or 3 assets. We have the concentration of universities, and we're so excited that we're more and more the home of iconic innovation-driven organizations. And I think there's no doubt that this region is on its way to becoming one of those iconic hubs of innovation in the world. And for that, I can't tell our friends from Amazon how excited we are. Technically, you're already in the neighborhood, but the new presence, we're incredibly excited about what's yet to come. Welcome to Northern Virginia. Welcome to Greater Washington. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cabrera. So, a word about our organization. We're the host of this event, the Council of Governments, a nonprofit private association started in 1957 to facilitate collaboration amongst the cities and counties of the Washington metropolitan area. And these members, the cities and counties across the region, all recognize the importance of diversifying our region's economy. The recent federal government shutdown served as the latest reminder that we must become less dependent on the federal government. So, building on recent progress like the Metro Funding Agreement and new regional housing and transportation priorities, COG remains sharply focused on helping our governments plan for the future, including Amazon. The conversation with Amazon is an opportunity to bring leaders together to think regionally about how we can ensure the benefits from the new headquarters are spread throughout the metropolitan region. We've discussed the idea of this convening for a while, and we're pleased that it came together tonight. So let me introduce our panel for this evening. Just a sentence or two. Look them up online if you want more. Jeanette Chapman is the Deputy Director and Senior Research Associate for the George Mason's Stephen S. Fuller Institute. She's an authority on housing, employment, and demographic trends in the region, including studying Amazon's potential effect. Holly Sullivan is Amazon's Head of Worldwide Economic Development. She led the search for Amazon's new headquarters, and prior, spent more than 15 years attracting and retaining businesses in local communities like Montgomery County. To her right, Victor Hoskins has been the Director of Arlington Economic Development since 2015. He works tirelessly to keep Arlington economically competitive and was key to bringing Amazon to Arlington and the region. Stephen Murray, President and CEO of the Virginia Economic Development Partnership since 2017, led the Commonwealth's effort to attract and secure HQ2. And Andrew Van Horn, Andy, is an Executive Vice President for JBG Smith with the company since 2005. The real estate firm is Amazon's development partner for the new headquarters at National Landing. So Arlington County has hosted sessions on various topics related to Amazon in the region. And tonight we have the opportunity to continue the conversation about Amazon's economic impacts, headquarters and workforce development, and the company's approach to working with the community. So for the first part of this evening's conversation, I'm going to ask Jeanette to provide context about the state of the region's economy and what that economy looks like with Amazon as part of it. Holly, I'll ask to offer specifics on Amazon's plans and company culture. Victor and Stephen to talk about incentives and why they think this is a good deal for the county and for the Commonwealth. Then Andy will wrap up at the ground level, the buildings, the headquarters, the site, and National Landing. Then we'll hear your questions. So let's start with Jeanette. Jeanette, can you put this into context for us? Can you share your insight on the region's economy and the outlook for Amazon coming to the region?
Certainly. Thank you, Chuck. So, it popped up. So the reason Amazon is important for the Washington region is the types of jobs that it is, not necessarily the magnitude of the jobs that it's going to bring. And the reason that the types of jobs are important is that they are private sector, they aren't dependent on the federal government, and they're high value add. Ultimately, our region is still overly dependent on the federal government, and you can see the benefit of that is that during recessions, we tend to be bolstered compared to the national economy, and we don't feel the depths of the recession as much as other places do. So you can see in 2009, our economy, the red line, continued to grow, while the national economy, the blue line, dipped below zero. However, the flip side of that is we pay a price for this. And the price is that our economy and our residents are held hostage, can be held hostage, to the national politicking that goes on that then affects our economy. And the overall result over the past 10 years has been that the federal government has held down our growth relative to the national economy. So the end line here shows the blue line, the U.S. has grown faster over the past decade compared to the Washington region because of our dependence on the federal government. And this includes the bump that we got during the recession. So for the entire business cycle, the federal government has been a drag over this full 10-year period. And this pattern shows up in average wages as well. Average wages peaked in our region in 2010 before declining through 2013, and they didn't return back to their 2010 peak until 2017. However, price levels have not changed along this pattern. Price levels have been consistently 19 to 20% higher than the national average in our region. That means that when we have dips, it gets compounded by our prices in a way that other areas don't have. So in terms of adding the types of jobs are more important because we regularly grow a large number of jobs in our economy. And we're a bigger economy than Seattle, and we're a bigger economy than many metro areas. And so for the past 4 years, we've gained more than 50,000 jobs each year. The composition of these jobs is what is important. And specifically, Amazon will build on our advanced industrial cluster base. These are not federally dependent. We already have a competitive advantage in these jobs, and they're high value add and high wages. However, they have been underperforming their potential for the past 3 years. In 2015 and 2016, we did not grow as fast as the nation did in terms of these clusters. We actually grew at about half the rate. That means that we need some sort of injection to help bolster the growth going forward, which is what Amazon will do. The 2017, we had a modest improvement. However, a lot of that increase was right here in MGM, and that's a one-time injection. And those kinds of gains aren't going to be sustained. However, Amazon will have sustained growth for the next decade that will have a cascade effect, not only within the advanced industrial cluster ecosystem, but into the broader economy. They have larger secondary and tertiary needs that then roll in and help bolster the economy overall. And so the types of jobs are the things that our region needs to be focused on, not necessarily the magnitude.
Great. Thank you, Jeanette. So let's get right into Amazon. And I'm going to ask Holly to talk about Amazon's plans in Arlington, in the region. So let's kick this into the next gear. Holly, I invite you to reintroduce Amazon to the region. And, you know, there were 238 places that wanted HQ2. And if you give us some sense, why did Amazon select Arlington?
Absolutely. Thanks, Chuck, for the invitation, and thanks to the Council of Governments for convening this important discussion. Thanks to all of you here this evening. This is great to see so many faces here, and really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. So if you'll be a little bit patient with me, I'm going to just go a little bit into kind of what's important to us, and I'll lead into sort of the development also. First of all, just about Amazon, we strive to be the most customer-centric company in the world, where customers can find anything on our website at low competitive prices. And that goal continues today. And we'll continue in our new headquarters, where we're going to be an active member of the community and be good neighbors. We already have over 10,000 employees in the state of Virginia. We have over 5,000 in the state of Maryland. We have a lot of existing partnerships, a lot of good relationships. We're going to continue to build upon those. We've just started our outreach. We've met with many nonprofits. Many of you here today we've met with, many community leaders, business leaders. We're going to continue to listen, to learn, and learn about your priorities so we can make informed decisions. A little bit about our Seattle headquarters, which I think will give, the headquarters here will be different, but I think it's important to give you a little bit of insight about our headquarters in Seattle. We took several important distinctions in Seattle that are important to kind of who we are as a company and our design elements. One is separate bike entrances. We are a biking company, so we design our parking garages so the autos and the bikes have different entrances in them. We have a great dedication to green space and sustainability, and our priority for first floor retail. We're not like your typical headquarter company or tech headquarter company in that we only build our inside food service to serve 1/3 of our employee population in Seattle, so we can really push our employees out into the neighborhood to support the small business community. And as many of you may already know, we are a dog-friendly campus. So we're going to have lots of new dogs here in Arlington as new residents also. And our Virginia headquarters will be very different, but we are going to still have the same design elements and the important principles that we take into development, such as sustainability. Amazon in the community. Giving back to the community is in our DNA. We have two priority areas. One of those is STEM education, and the other is Right Now Needs. In November, we announced a new program called Amazon Future Engineers, and that is our goal to ensure that 10 million students have access to computer science programs. We've already been partnering with schools here in the Commonwealth, and have had many existing partnerships that we're going to build upon. We had a great tour of the Arlington Tech campus, and look forward to working with Dr. Murphy on that. Our second is our Right Now Needs, and that's our focus on hunger, homelessness, and disaster relief. We also have a priority for opportunities for veterans. We have over 1,500 veterans employed in the Commonwealth and veteran spouses. We also continue to build our programs to ensure they have the training, to ensure they can have career pathways. One example is right here with the Northern Virginia Community College. We announced a new apprenticeship program to train veterans in the tech fields. Here's, back up. And National Landing, also Pentagon City, Crystal City. National Landing is sort of the new catchy term these days. But there's many reasons why we chose this location. And when we were doing our site visits last spring and summer, there were a few elements that really stood out to us. One was the talent. This is a location in a region that has top-ranked universities, has an excellent public education system. That gives us an opportunity to work with other companies to build a really robust talent pipeline. Second is the access to great transit. I looked at a lot of real estate sites in the spring and summer, and I can tell you that this is one of the best real estate sites that we saw in all of North America with access to transit, 3 metro stations, and a commuter rail station also. Over 50% of our employees in Seattle use another mode of transportation than the automobile to get to the office back and forth. We anticipate that percentage to be even higher here in Arlington due to the great infrastructure and the vision that everybody in this room and on the stage has really put their time and investment in. The third is the neighborhood. When we were on the site visit and we were walking around, you could really see that the county And JBG Smith had a vision for Crystal City, the new Crystal City, the new Pentagon City, and we like that vision. We did notice there's a lot of vacant office buildings, which gives us an opportunity to start hiring in 2019 so we can start to build that, build our employee base here. The last, and certainly not least, is the spirit of regional collaboration. This hasn't always been well known in the region, but Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. came together on this project, and we had support across the region. This is so important because we're going to have employees living in all these areas too, and that choice of living is very important to us.
Holly, do you want to say that about 3 or 4 more times? Spirit of collaboration.
Regionalism.
District, Maryland, Virginia. Did everybody get that part? I love it. Okay.
It's important. I think it's a really important key factor, and I can also throw Alexandria in there with that. On the jobs and investment, we're going to create over 25,000 new jobs right here in Arlington. We're going to invest over $2.5 billion. We're going to build 4 million square feet of energy-efficient office space. We're going to start hiring this year. I think it's important to note that those 25,000 jobs are not going to come overnight. They're not going to come in 1 or 2 years. We're going to start with 400 jobs this year, hopefully hire another 1,000 next year, another 1,000 the year after. But 25,000 will be our goal over 10 to 12 years. So I have a lot of opportunity to engage in that important discussion about infrastructure, about where our employees are living, about how we can create that talent pipeline also. So we're really excited about this project. Really appreciate your time listening to me this evening, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. I think, Holly, before we move on, just let's talk about New York for a second. And
Sure.
New York, as the news, not going to be one of the sites. Is there anything that you can share about those jobs, how it might fit Virginia? If I could also layer on, what might Amazon have learned about stakeholder engagement as part of that process?
Absolutely. Appreciate the question. I think the first thing I want to say is nothing will change for Virginia. We are committed to the 25,000 jobs here in Arlington. We think that is going to be a great fit in building that talent pipeline. Community engagement is always important when you have a large project or a medium-sized project. We've met with over 50 nonprofits already in the community. We've had meetings with policymakers. We've had K through 12 education leaders, higher education, but we're going to continue that conversation. There's still a lot more people we want to meet with. We want to continue to learn about the priorities so we can build those sustainable long-term partnerships.
Great. All right, thank you. Let's go to Stephen and Victor. The two of you were pivotal in making this pitch, making the proposal. I wonder if you could outline with data why you think this is a good deal for the Commonwealth. Commonwealth's got the bigger bucks, and for the county. So let's go with Stephen and then Victor.
Sure, thanks, Chuck, and great to be with all of you tonight. First of all, I'd build on the comments that Jeanette Chapman made. The biggest opportunity that we see from this is the opportunity to diversify the economy in Northern Virginia and the Commonwealth as a whole. When the Amazon RFP came in 18 months ago, we were just wrapping up our strategic plan for economic development of the Commonwealth, and what we saw as the biggest challenge facing our state was the over-reliance on the federal government. And largely because of that, the expectation of underperformance of Virginia's economy for the foreseeable future. This project, when you consider both the 25,000 direct jobs as well as at least 22,000 indirect jobs of folks that would be in the Commonwealth of Virginia, will be enough to close roughly 25 to 50% of our 10-year job growth gap to get back into the top 10 states. The forecast when we were doing that plan, we got the Amazon RFP in, was that we would be slightly below the national average for growth and face continued net population outmigration. With Amazon, we're closing 25 to 50% of the gap to get back into the top 10. Additionally, when you look at the project, it was right in the bullseye of where we're trying to go with the Virginia economy. Our single biggest growth opportunity in the Commonwealth for the foreseeable future is in tech. Cybersecurity, software development, data centers, unmanned systems, a whole range of different spaces. This one sector alone, we believe will be bigger than all of the other sectors together in terms of the growth opportunity. And having a company like Amazon that is an innovator across multiple verticals is a really big deal, very exciting. And perhaps the thing that we're most excited about is this project will be a catalyst, has been a catalyst for a historic investment in Virginia's tech talent pipeline. The state is committing up to about $1.1 billion to more than double the annual production of graduates and bachelor's and master's degrees in computer science, computer engineering, software engineering, and so forth. That is going to be meaningful not just for Amazon's needs, but for all of the tech sector in Northern Virginia and beyond. And finally, a tremendous amount of new general fund revenue, even after the incentives, even after the education investments, tremendous amount of new revenue available to fund healthcare, public education, and other things across the Commonwealth. When you look at all of the commitments that we're making, the return on the incentives is more than 6-to-1 for Virginia.
Thank you. Can I just hit on that last one? Or just kind of boil it down like I'm talking to my neighbor. You said 6-to-1. So what's the 6? What's the 1?
Right, so if we assume there are two phases in the contract, Amazon's committed to at least the first phase of 25,000 jobs. So if we just go with that phase, we believe there'll be at least $3.8 billion of new state general fund revenue, a minimum $3.8 billion, against $550 million over the same time period in state incentives. That's more than 6-to-1. It's 6.5 or so to 1, I think, if you discount the revenue. So for every dollar in incentives, we're getting more than $6 in revenue.
So if I get out my calculator, it's 3.8 divided by 550 million. All right, Victor, in the county's perspective.
Yeah, so there could not be a place that is in greater need than diversification than Northern Virginia, and in particular, Arlington County. We lost 34,000 government-related jobs since 2001. That was devastating. We lost small businesses because of it, and 24,000 alone were lost in Crystal City. This is what everybody misses. This is what a lot of people don't understand. And in 2010, the county, working with its citizens in about 90 meetings, developed a new vision for the Crystal City, a new vision. And that vision was about 20 million square feet. This is only 4 to 6 million square feet. This is nowhere near the vision of this county. But the problem was in 2001, all the concomitant negative externalities of the departure of the government, of the BRAC, of sequestration, of the change in the utilization of office space, it all kind of hit together. And 3% a year we lost in vacancy, rolling all the way to 2015. So we went from about 10% to 22%. In 2015, I took the job. And the reason I did is that I understood the challenge. And I also understood that this county has used planning as its tool. It needed a catalyst. It needed a strategy that went inside that planning and made that planning realizable. That's really what we did. And with the board, the county manager, and the staff, and my business investment staff led by Christina Wynn, and my assistant director, Alex Imes, we developed this way forward strategy. We work with our Economic Development Commission, Frank Poley and others. They accepted the ideas, Kate Bates, they helped guide us. And with this, we really set the stage for not just Amazon. We set the stage for other companies in addition to Amazon. We happen to be very fortunate in that in the last 4 years, we've had the Deal of the Year, Nestle, we got Gerber, we got Grant Thornton, I can go on and on. But all of that happened because we had a strategy that was focused on diversifying our economy. And we were looking for companies that fit that mold where our place fit their need. When we talked to Nestle, we talked to them about talent. And they said, well, we want to see your talent. We brought together all the universities that were willing to come to sit around a table and talk about their talent. We had Darden School, we had GMU, we had Marymount, we had everybody sitting there talking about the talent that they produce right now. And then Nestle gave them the feedback on what they needed in the future. To us, it's solve the business's problem. And that's what we really focused on. This was really, and then the second part of that, getting in this planning mode again, transportation, housing. We had a housing plan to develop about almost 8,000 housing units over the next 15, 20 years. We've now worked with Alexandria, and we both together are going to invest $150 million over a 10-year period in affordable housing, bringing online a couple of thousand units. The state of Virginia, and listen, when I say collaboration, I don't mean you just came over and you work with me. You put some money in the game. And I got to tell you something, Virginia Economic Development Partnership, we could not have a greater partner. Everything that we have done in the county has only happened because of their participation. And in this case, they even helped us get some money from the Virginia Housing Development Agency. Thank you. And then beyond that, we also are working on our transportation infrastructure between us and Alexandria. You know, we developed our systems together for bus rapid transit, for our metro, for access to the airport. We developed our ideas together, investing over the next, 10, 15 years, $570 million joint investment. So we put our investment there. And I'm sorry, Amazon, we $23 million for Amazon directly because the state wrote the big check. Our return, 14 to 1. The partnership here, we could not, I got to tell you, I dream about this. I have anxiety. I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning thinking about this. This is all I think about right now. This is all my team is focused on. We know that this is a historic moment. This is the moment for the D.C., Maryland, Virginia region. This is not just for Arlington County. We didn't even talk about Arlington. We talked about the entire region. I sold the universities as if they were in my backyard. I talked about the University of Maryland College Park like it was across the street, because it literally is. We have to change our mindset and really come together to develop solutions. And I think that what Amazon has done for us is helped us catalyze that moment. And I think that, and I know when we're at a special moment, my team knows, and we're leaning forward, and we're just looking forward to you guys getting here. So.
I could see when you were talking about College Park is just down the street. I think there were some amens from Prince George's County Council Chairman Todd Turner, Derek Davis. Thank you. Let's go back to a couple of the first things that you said. Is it are you making the strong argument about National Landing that there were 34,000 employees that were there, or is it the strong argument that Arlington's been planning to add these millions of square feet in this area?
So the whole county was 34,000. Crystal City itself, the Crystal City, Pentagon City, that region was 24,000. That 24,000 job loss, just bringing the 25,000 in just makes us at par. I mean, this is a catch-up right now. But what's so incredible about Amazon is that they're creating industries. They're creating innovation. This is where our opportunity is. They are going to help us create our future. Now, we have ideas about AI, about data analytics, about cyber, and we're so glad that CGI has come here with their cyber center, and Accenture put their cyber center here. But there are things that haven't even happened yet, that haven't even come to the table, that we're going to see. That is where the potential is. That's where the greatness of this moment is. And they won't just be for here. They will be for the entire region. They will go from Baltimore all the way down to Richmond, Virginia. It is not just for us, it's for everybody.
Thank you, Victor. All right, let's get down to a little more brass tacks. Andy, the timing of the Amazon RFP nicely coincided with your company's acquisition of Vornado's portfolio, positioned you to submit a proposal to work with the state and the county. So can you share a few specifics about the buildings that Amazon will occupy and the timeline, if you will, for filling that space?
Sure, no problem. I also somehow drew the short straw to go after Victor. It's not fair. Yeah, we have some slides here, and this is a really high-level slide. You can see three light blue buildings. Those are three leased assets that Amazon's actually planning on leasing. It's 241 18th Street, 1800 South Bell, and 1770 Crystal. Those are three buildings that do total 500,000 feet that they anticipate putting those 400 people in, over this year, the 1,000 in next year, and that'll get up to a couple thousand people. We'll deliver 1770 in 2020. That'll be the last of those leased assets. At the same time, we plan on going through a great community process with Amazon and of course, all of our local civic associations and the SPRC members on Metz Park and Penn Place over time. There's some timelines up on the screen here, and those are kind of anticipated construction start timelines, frames, because we won't start each of the buildings all at once. We'll stagger them out, and we envision starting with Metropolitan Park, entering into a public process later this year. We're still at concept planning and design with Holly's construction team. And then we'd move on to Penn Place, which is a PDSP planned site at the north end of Pentagon City. And so that kind of will have the 500,000 feet that they have in the short-term leases. We'll then move over and move into that newly built occupied space in Pentagon City. This was a rendering that we and the state and the county put together to kind of pitch Amazon during the HQ2 submission. And in the foreground, you can see kind of the Penn Place site or Met Park site as envisioned at the time, and you can see Penn Place in the background. And of course, we're looking northeast. You can see the district and the immediate access and views. we really thought this was a compelling opportunity for them to build neighborhoods integrated into the urban environment and very close to DC and all the benefits that accrue by living in an urban area. One thing I wanted to talk about was National Landing. Everybody's been talking about this. What does it mean? Are we renaming something? And I think we have thought about this a lot. And when we first came up with this name, it was really because we were going to have such a large land area. It made us think of the RB corridor. There's a lot of neighborhoods, and there are a lot of things happening in different neighborhoods. And so between Pentagon City, Crystal City, and Potomac Yard, there was something from each of those areas that needed to be talked about in this proposal. And so we had Virginia Tech, kind of in Alexandria. We have infrastructure improvements in the airport in Crystal City. We have Amazon Landing in Pentagon City. And we really got excited about the idea of how do we bring all these things together and discuss it with a single name rather than having to call it, the PCP corridor or something terrible like that. Yeah. This is one of the things we're really excited about as a firm. As you noted, we did take over a portfolio from Vornado just prior to Amazon's first proposal, RFP response coming out. And we really looked at Crystal City, and it needed a lot of work. And so what comes along with not only the county investment is the state's investing hundreds of millions of dollars on projects that are really going to provide great transit and multimodal benefits. So we're getting, pedestrian bridge to the airport is being planned, improvements to the Crystal City Metro entrance off Crystal Drive. The new Potomac Yard Metro Station is something Alexandria is funding and bringing forward. We envision improvements to Route 1, and ideally, in some cases, bringing that down to grade. And you can see there's a variety of other smaller projects, all which work, in a great ecosystem to dramatically improve all those modes of transportation that are today's way of commuting, rather than when Route 1 was elevated and in 1970. These are some of the images of the projects. We have the pedestrian bridge. We have a reimagination of Route 1 with additional housing opportunities unlocked by exit ramps and other uses that we literally wouldn't want to see in an urban environment. We have the Virginia Tech campus, as a real icon. We think globally and nationally. We think Cornell Technion, but we think better, and we think we can do more. And then, of course, we have the metro entrance on Crystal Drive in the corner, which will be a great, highly visible, kind of access point for many, many commuters. And then finally, we have a lot of investment opportunities around the Amazon sites. They're shown here in yellow. Everything in red. There's 7 or 8 projects there. Are opportunities for us to bring online new housing and new office in order to meet the demand of other tenant occupants, and also to help bring forward lots of housing opportunities for many reasons. But we're really excited about this opportunity to kind of expand and mix of uses around this campus opportunity. And that's a couple images of our buildings. So 1770 is one of the buildings that Amazon will be occupying. The one next to it is called 1900 Crystal Drive. It's a proposed residential building. And at the very bottom, this is under construction. It's our first 150,000 square foot retail opportunity on Crystal Drive, a movie theater, grocery store, a lot of the neighborhood amenities that we've been looking for. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. We're going to move into the next section. I want to make lots of time for questions from the audience. And what we're going to try to do is provide a little bit of a map, so it's not just popcorn topic X or Y or Z, a little bit of a roadmap for topics. So can you hit that one, folks? 5 topics. Grabbing the clicker. So the first topic bucket, incentives and project benefits for the region. Then we're going to get to Amazon's plans for integrating into the community, headquarters site development, your questions on that, hiring, labor, workforce development, and then other as time permitting. So let's go first to incentives and project benefits for the region. And Monica is going to have a mic there. Bob Sweeney over there is going to have a mic. What I'm going to try to do is take 2 or 3 questions on this topic, bundle them together, and throw them up to the panel. So any folks over here want to raise your hand on the topic of incentives and project benefits? Monica or Bob will come to you. And I get teed up over there for a question. Anybody there? Just make eye contact with Bob. So let's take that first question, Monica.
Hi there, Nicole Merline. I was wondering if there have been any contracts signed and by whom?
All right, and that's question number one. Is there another question on incentives, project benefits for the region? Yeah, Mr. Turner.
Good evening, everyone. I'm County Councilman Todd Turner. I'm the chair of the Prince George's County Council. I'm here with my colleague, Derek Davis, former chair as well as being on the COG board. Obviously, we were in it to win it. We didn't get there. But we understand the benefits to the entire region, and that's why we're here in support. Can you talk a little bit about how you see that benefit going outside of the actual development within Virginia? Particularly, you talked a little bit, Holly, about residential and opportunities as part of that. And obviously, we have great amenities right over the bridge, not too far from this, that we also want to take advantage, in addition to the residential, but also some commercial opportunities in the county, as you're talking about the distribution model as part of that, as well as particularly opportunities for other office in the region.
Thank you, sir. Question over there.
Hi, I'm Tenley Peterson from the Fiscal Affairs Advisory Commission. Victor, I was interested in your comment about the 14-to-1 return on investment for the incentives. Can you talk about when we consider the extra investments we're going to have to do into affordable housing, how does that impact our return on investment? Thank you.
All right, so panel, what's been signed, what's been official, what are the benefits throughout the region, and going deeper on that 14-to-1. So folks want to jump in? Why don't you start, Stephen?
Yeah, so at least at the state level, prior to the announcement, we executed an MOU with Amazon that details the direct company incentives, all of which are performance-based and paid only after qualifying jobs are created. It also includes the state's commitments on the multimodal transportation investments that Andy talked about. The implementation of that was contingent upon the state, the General Assembly adopting enabling legislation, which did occur and has been signed by the governor. So the state's incentive package with Amazon is now essentially fully executed and live. The first payment from that will come in fiscal year 2024 after several years of qualifying jobs have been created. So all kind of 4 years post-performance. There was also a question about benefits beyond just this area. Of course, first of all, the folks that work at Amazon will live not only throughout Northern Virginia, but throughout the DC metro area. We estimated roughly 31% of the employees will live in either Maryland or DC. I don't have the exact breakdown by locality, but roughly, close to a third outside the Commonwealth. We did account for that in our own ROI analysis. So when I talked about those general fund revenues, we're assuming we don't get any revenue from the out-of-state folks that.
And the question about the benefits, so that was from a net number. It was the net fiscal benefit, and that's how we calculated.
And I'll follow back on the regional benefit too. I mean, we have 10,000 Amazon employees in the Commonwealth today. We have over 5,000 in Maryland also. We have a corporate office in Herndon, Virginia. We have a corporate office in downtown DC. So we're already very regional in nature. And as we continue to invest in Northern Virginia with our headquarters, there's going to be an opportunity for additional investment beyond that. We have our fulfillment center network. We have our corporate office network. And having the headquarters here will just continue to give us an opportunity to spread more of that elsewhere. I'd also think lean in on the opportunity for the clustering of the workforce, really having a catalyst in some of the programs that Arlington and Alexandria and the Commonwealth are doing with the talent pipeline and putting the dollars in that and the investment. We've already had meetings, when we had our site visits with all the regional institutions also. So having an opportunity to create that clustering impact of more technology sector jobs will be a huge boost for the entire regional economy.
Chuck, if I could say one thing. One thing about the affordable housing conversation that's interesting is if you think about DC region created 52,000 jobs last year. And over the same 10 years that Amazon's expecting to do 25,000 jobs, the region's expected to do 500,000 or 600,000 more. And so I think this is a great catalyst for a conversation around affordable housing, but it's something we've been talking about and should have been talking about more robustly all along. And so I think it's great to be kind of having this conversation, but something we need to kind of focus on regardless of this opportunity.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, we aren't unique in our affordable housing crisis. Every major metropolitan area with a robust jobs market is currently encountering the same issues. What we have an advantage in that we can actually say, we have an Amazon, we need to use some of the Amazon, we need to think about this more constructively and be a little bit more proactive. The Arlington County has a very strong and robust comprehensive plan. The affordable housing element there is prescriptive. And the forecasts there are really more or less true, even with or without Amazon. And so now it's mostly about thinking about how do we get those investments on the ground.
All right, other questions about the incentives that are part of this package, the benefits that are part of this? Yep.
I'm Robert McCartney from the Washington Post. I have a question for Ms. Sullivan. In the event that Arlington were to reject the $27 million in performance-based incentives, would you pull out as you did in New York?
First of all,
That's not a loaded question.
before you answer it, it's $23 million. I'll be raising it, I'm just saying.
So there's a couple ways I could answer this. First of all, talent was the primary driver of this entire process, and that's something that, we've really studied. We had over 100 different data analytic points that we took into account when making this decision. Incentives are one of our tools in the toolbox. They are important to us. They give us an opportunity to reinvest in not only our workforce development initiatives, but our infrastructure. And the incentives that, the state have offered are post-performance, meaning that there are no incentives back to Amazon for several years until after we create the jobs, we invest the dollars, and the taxes are generated for the incentive on that. On the local side of things, the actual incentive is a portion of the hotel motel tax, the TOT, locally. And what that is actually creating a baseline, looking over 3 years, and taking a percentage of that so we can reinvest that back into the campus.
Percentage of the growth.
Yeah.
On the growth, yes.
Yeah, and that's also post-performance.
And it's also all post, yes, everything is post-performance, so there are no incentives to Amazon until after the jobs are created, the investment is made, and the tax revenue is generated.
Thank you, Mr. McCartney. We got that question out. So let's go on to the next bucket. This has to do with questions related to how Amazon will integrate in the community, partner with academic institutions, nonprofits, stakeholders, and others. And as a reminder, we are live streaming, so it's the opportunity to submit questions via the live stream. So questions related to Amazon's integration in the community, I think question one, question two, and I'll come to you, sir.
Thank you. Glenn Ogilvy, Center for Nonprofit Advancement. One, this is very exciting, and I appreciate you all being here. I was super delighted to hear that you took the time to meet with nonprofits in advance, maybe over 50 organizations you mentioned, Holly. I'm curious to know two things. One, what are the employee incentives to engage with organizations, either at the board level or as volunteers? And then the second part of my question is, what did you learn from those meetings with organizations?
So engagement with nonprofits. And second question?
Hey, thank you so much. I'm Jay Sinha. By day, I'm a cybersecurity lawyer at Verizon, but I'm here in my presentation of Northern Virginia Conservation Trust, and we would love to kind of interface better with both JBG and the Amazon, but we want to know an orderly way to do it rather than try to bother you on LinkedIn. So if you had a suggestion on the best way to interface with you, either through our great colleagues in the county or in the state, we'd love to hear more about that.
Engagement channels. So let's go take this question.
Good evening. My name is Saul Reyes. I'm with Bugata. We're a tenants organization. My question has to do with affordable housing and how you would integrate into the community. As we all know, there's a great need, and as you said earlier, every metropolitan area has that a crisis in affordable housing. Well, we do, and all the planning that has gone into this in Arlington County has contributed to the smart growth of Arlington, and that has led to the crisis in affordable housing that we have now. Having Amazon, all this is this working? Has contributed to attracting Amazon, right? So my question is, how is Amazon going to help address the crisis and meet the need, help us meet the need of affordable housing? And would there be financial contributions from Amazon to help us address this need in the community?
I'm going to keep stacking these questions. Remember them, nonprofit engagement and affordable housing.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Robert White, council member at large in DC and chair of the COG board. Certainly there will be a great number of high-skilled jobs that require college degrees, and folks from across the country will compete for those jobs. But increasingly we're seeing IT training programs for folks with high school diplomas or equivalents. So how can Amazon partner with the region and the region partner with Amazon to ensure that we have a pipeline of training programs for some of the IT jobs that don't require degrees?
Thank you, Mr. White. And we have one question from the live stream. It's probably for Victor or maybe your transportation director. Can Arlington County create safe bike pedestrian trails on Washington Boulevard from Glebe Road to National Landing? Thank you, Robin, for that question.
That one goes
All
to
right,
Steve.
so-
Specific.
Let's, I think that's a big enough bundle. Let's just grab
That's a lot.
So, nonprofits, engagement in affordable housing. Let's start with that part of it.
So I'll start, and I'll kind of start with the nonprofit question. So as I mentioned in my brief presentation, giving back to the community is really part of not only our corporate DNA, but it's also our employees and their employees' DNA. So we have a lot of different programs that we do. One of the things that we've done in Seattle that, we can do something similar here. I don't want to keep using Seattle as the example, but that's what we know, and that's where our current headquarters is until we build here. As we did a nonprofit fair for our employees, where we brought in all the local nonprofits and allowed our employees to also select which nonprofit they wanted to be engaged in. I mentioned some of our priority areas of homelessness and hunger and disaster relief. We've done a lot of different disaster relief with the hurricanes that have plagued this country over the last couple of years. And then we've also been very dedicated to homelessness. One example I can use is in Seattle with Mary's Place. And there was a need in Seattle for the homeless population. And we kind of took it up to our leadership to say, how can we be part of this solution here? And so I'll make this it's a kind of a long story. I'll try and make it short. The first thing we did was we had a site that we were going to develop on. And we renovated a hotel and provided space for about 90 families within this hotel for short term. It was such a good relationship, and it wasn't just about providing the bricks and mortar of that space. It was the wraparound and the employee engagement that we had. So we had our legal teams reviewing medical bills to help them, make good decisions. We had them, reviewing resumes and helping them do resume workshops. We also had it reviewing apartment leases on, getting out and creating those career pathways. We are now building Mary's Place as part of our headquarters, so they're going to have a permanent home on our campus. So when we think about community engagement, engaging with the nonprofits, it's not about Amazon standing on a stage and writing a big check. We want to do something that's sustainable and long-term and that meets the needs of the community. The other questions.
Let's
nonprofit.
segue to partnership on housing. I think Andy or Victor, do you want to, there was a question on making sure partnerships on housing and what Arlington can do, what Amazon can do.
I'll kind of start and kick it off just a
Yeah,
little
then
bit, so when we were doing our site visits, affordable housing, as Jeanette said, is every metropolitan area is facing an issue with affordable housing. And that's something that we, want to be very cognizant of. I can tell you that reviewing and being on these site visits, the programs that Arlington and Alexandria and actually some of the programs the Commonwealth are doing are far superior than most of the metropolitan areas. So we felt very confident that what they're doing, we can build upon that, and we want to be good partners. We want to be part of the solution. These are going to be our employees living in Arlington also, so we want to make sure that's a good partnership. And I'll actually defer to Victor to talk about some of the great programs.
Yeah, so I mentioned one, really, it's going to be a joint funding of housing in both Alexandria and Arlington. And the county and the city together have decided to invest about $150 million over 10 years. That's going to be paired with $75 million from the state. That's $225 million. And this is the kind of funding that helps the low-income affordable housing as well as workforce housing. So it just won't be one type. What we've been talking about, which is a larger conversation, is how can the private sector participate on a greater scale? And I'll let JBG talk about the Washington initiative and what they're doing.
Yeah, and while we do think this is a primarily a public-led kind of requirement, JBG had been wrestling with this, for the last 10 or 15 years as we've tried to figure this out, and there was no real market solution, and so we ended up, kind of coming up with the Washington Housing Initiative in the last couple of years, and finally got it rolling this year. But it's going to be a $150 million fund where people invest with a social impact effort, and it invests into strictly affordable housing. It's in partnership with the Federal City Council, and there's also the Washington Housing Conservancy that goes along with that as the operator of that. And it's kind of a new model for how we can hopefully bring private investment, banks, others who want to have social impact in their investing, and find and preserve affordable units that are existing in Arlington and Alexandria today. And we think we can do 2,000 to 3,000 units of preservation with that fund, specifically targeted to the DC area. And we hope that things like this are successful. Models like this can be created. It's one of the early things I think we've seen, and we haven't really seen anybody else do this in the country on a fund level. And so we're hoping that this is something that people will pay attention to and feel that this is a real opportunity and something they want to do.
And just to add on to the county side of this, because I had the pleasure of working on the affordable housing study for the county that started back before I started being involved in it around 2013. And I know you were involved as a working group member earlier than that, meeting pretty much every month at least, I think, for 2 years, give or take. And as part of that process, what we did was a forecast based on job growth that was an abstraction of job growth. We didn't know what company was going to come. We didn't know where those jobs were going to come from. But those forecasts are still relatively accurate given the changes in what we've seen in the past few years. They're a little bit dated, but the fundamental linkages are still there. And so the county has aspirational goals. It's about generating and creating these collections of funding in order to get there. And Amazon has actually been a catalyst to do that in a way that if this job growth had remained just an abstraction of jobs, that we may not have been able to do.
All right, thank you. Unfortunately, we have Arlington Housing Director in the House as well as Alexandria's Housing Director in the House. So David, can you just, is there anything else that you want to add?
Sure, I think it starts off, the foundation of planning, and so if nothing else we do in Arlington, it is plan. And so everybody's talked about the master plan, and it took 3 years, a long 3-year course, and as Jeanette said, we really did the forecast based on what the employment growth was. And so what's coming down, not the pike, but Crystal City to the pike, is really is a housing plan that anticipates that. So we've got the aspiration is about 600 rental units per year, and it's about 100 ownership units per year. And so that's the plan. We've also got a plan in Crystal City, and as Victor said, that's a far-reaching plan. There's about 1,500 affordable units that are to be in that plan. We've got the Columbia Pike plan, which was done 4, 5, 6 years ago, and that ambitious plan was to preserve all 6,000 of the affordable units that are in that area, not just the income-restricted units, but the market affordable units. We've got ambitious plans to preserve affordable housing, but that's also, Alexandria's got plans, DC's got plans, and I think one of the exciting things about this moment is that it's not just Arlington and Alexandria, but it's the District of Columbia, it's Fairfax County, it's Montgomery County, Prince George's County, trying to work together better, not only in transportation, which has happened through the Metro funding, which is great, but also some of these other initiatives which involve public money, but also private sector money. I do want to point out two, I think, challenges, and Sal raised those. I think this is, with or without Amazon, the folks that have the least amount of money and the least ability, those are the people that we're going to have to focus on. And so that's still going to mean a lot of money, not just our money, but I think at the federal level, the Housing Choice Voucher, AKA Section 8 program, that is something that has been woefully underfunded, and that's got to change. And so I think we're going to be doing a lot of as we can at the local level, but there's got to be some work at the federal level, and that's something that's got to give. The second area is in this area called missing middle, and we've got a pretty good system for doing the tax credit deals that get to the 40, 60, 80% of AMI folks earning anywhere from $30,000 to $80,000. But what about the people that earn too much for these units, whether they're renting or owning? And I think that's a challenge that we've got to try and figure out. And it may not be a financial fix, although the JBG, the impact fund may help that, But on the ownership side, I think we've got to figure out how, from a land use, zoning, and planning perspective, can we incentivize that sort of housing that may be in this $300,000 to $600,000 ownership units. And I think my time is up.
It's great that David loves his stuff, right? I'm going to take a question here in just a moment, but just dovetailing on David, can I pick on Helen, David's counterpart from Alexandria, and she co-chairs with the housing director from the District of Columbia, the Regional Housing Group. So do you want to add anything to David's comments?
Well, I would say ditto to what David said, but also it's kind of an exciting moment for affordable housing because truly for the first time we are focused on solutions using a regional approach. And I think the investment from new players who have never before been investors in affordable housing really is going to provide resources we haven't seen before. So I have actually a lot of optimism about the way the conversation and hopefully the solutions are moving. And like David, Alexandria is very committed to fulfilling its housing master plan, which also includes a target number of affordable units.
Thank you, Helen. Let's take the question right there, Bob.
Good evening. I'm Lois Kuntz here with the Arlington County Civic Federation. Thank you all so much for coming out and talking about how Amazon will integrate into our community. I would very much like to get us to think a little bit bigger, a little bit out of the box. The concern I hear is affordability. It's not just housing. Affordability includes health care, it includes childcare, it includes workforce, it includes transportation. And I'm delighted to hear that you're working on all of this and the needs right now and the STEM education in particular. Specifically, I would suggest that Amazon could have a dramatic impact in our community if it took the lead in preschool education. Now, bear with me. Children start day one in kindergarten with achievement gaps. If there's quality pre-K, preschool, we eliminate those gaps. Those gaps persist all the way through high school. If we eliminate that, we are more likely to have a more diverse workforce coming out of our schools. This is truly an investment in our future, in equity, in education, and in affordability. I'm talking about pre-K that would be subsidized for families that need it. Again, affordability, it's a need right now, and if we could bring quality pre-K to all of the children in Arlington County, I can't think of a better legacy for any company. Thank you.
All right. So Amazon, hearing from the Civic Federation, does Amazon thinking big about some of these issues?
Well, and let me get back to Councilmember White's question also, because I think some of this sort of plays into our role in education and some of the initiatives and priorities that we have as a company, and I think that you have as a community. I mentioned earlier our Amazon Future Engineers. That's one of our premier programs that we just rolled out in November. We're still learning, but we've rolled it out in about a couple dozen schools already in the Commonwealth and stretching that into DC and Maryland also soon. And that's really focused on the computer science and the programming at the K through 12 education level. And so it's not quite the preschool level, but we're starting there and then really learning what those priorities are and how we can continue building that diverse pipeline of that tech talent for young students today. We have some other programs too at our fulfillment centers. We have the Career Choice Program, which is a program that once you've worked within our fulfillment centers, we pay 95% prepaid tuition to a career of your choice. And again, it's our commitment to building a better career pathway for those that might not have the same opportunities as others in the community. We also have, once you work at Amazon, we have several different career pathways also. We have a finance path if you're starting at an entry level. We also have a software development engineer pathway you can take, which is a 6-month training program in-house to get you into more of an engineering and technical field. So we're continuing to learn what the community and the needs are right here, and we look forward to partnering with you. The other question I forgot to answer is how you get a hold of us. Feel free to get a hold of me and stalk me on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure I get you to the right person.
Same for me.
All right, thank you. Let's turn to the next bucket, which is a little bit more granular. Wonder if there are additional questions or comments specifically related to the headquarters site. Do we call it a campus? Do we call it a headquarters? So let's take a bundle of questions. Let's go 1 and 2.
Well, Chuck, before you start that, we do not call it a campus. We call it a neighborhood because that's what it will be.
All right, take questions about the neighborhood. There you go.
Hi, I'm Jane Siegel. I'm an Arlington County Planning Commissioner. I'd like you to talk, perhaps, Andy Van Horn and Ms. Sullivan, a bit about how you think about the neighborhood and the planning documents that we have. They're all different. We have a sector plan in Crystal City, we have a PDSP for Pentagon City, and in fact, near the river houses, there's no plan at all. So I was sort of wondering how, taking a broad view, we'll be taking a very granular view at SPRC, but I'd like to know now about how you feel about the built environment and the plans you have to develop.
Yes, I'll start with that. And a little known secret about me is my background's in urban planning also. So I come by it naturally. And when we look at designing a neighborhood and designing our office buildings, we really want to understand what the existing built environment is and how we can really mold ourselves into the fabric of that neighborhood. And when you look at the Crystal City and the Pentagon City neighborhood, it's an opportunity, I think, for us to continue on some of the great things that have already been done in recent years, and that's a commitment to sustainability. Most of our buildings in Seattle are LEED certified. We're going to take that initiative here also. We also created a district energy concept at our Seattle headquarters. So we'll look for unique opportunities that might exist here to really focus and take that sustainability to the next level. We also have a commitment to open space and green space. We like to get our employees out into the neighborhood to not only go to get a cup of coffee, maybe grab a beverage after work and patronize the restaurants, but also be able to work and create and innovate in outdoor spaces. So we really try and take the indoors, outdoors, and vice versa. So when you look inside of our office buildings, we have a lot of sustainable products within our office buildings also. And so that's sort of our approach to things. And again, it's very much a neighborhood. There's no walls around it. All the green space is open to everyone in the community. So there's no big sign that says Amazon on it. We do building names, whether it be a project name, and the project of this Northern Virginia was Project Cooper. So there might be a name called Cooper. It might have been one of our vice president's dogs, Mr. Huseman. So we really try and take an innovative approach and look at those design elements that are prevalent within the region and the community and build upon those. And as far as going through the process, I think it's really important that we look forward to going through the process because that's where we can learn. How can we be a better neighbor? How can we be better at our design and development elements? We're going to hear some things. That's an opportunity for us to all come to the table and build a great plan together.
And I'd say from a macro perspective, when you pull back and think about where Amazon's locating its neighborhoods, we've looked at Pentagon City and Crystal City. Crystal City skewed basically 70% office, 30% residential. And so for Amazon to land its office over in Pentagon City, where it's actually almost the inverse, it's about 70% residential, 30% office, starts to say we can balance that neighborhood closer to a 50-50 mix, and then we can add housing on the Crystal City side, create a mixed-use environment there, which if people know Crystal City today, it's a little quiet on the weekends and evenings, so we'd like to make it a more of an 18/7 environment. And when we look at those two mixes across Route 1, we say that probably feels really good because we think about taking Route 1 to grade and really creating this as one place. We also, look at River House as an opportunity for housing, right? That's obviously a very granular conversation for many people here, but we do think we want to layer in opportunities for missing middle housing, townhouses, housing for sale, other types of housing. And so we're excited that it is shaking out the way it is because we think it actually works really well across the whole local area.
Thank you, Andy. We got 3 quick questions, so let's just stack them. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Eric Castle. I actually live in the neighborhood in Crystal City. And just kind of generally, you talked a little bit about architecture and community, but if you can give us some idea of the size of the new buildings, how many square feet, how tall, that type of thing, just to give you some sense of scale versus the current buildings, that would be helpful.
Hang on to that one, Andy. Size and scope, and Introduce yourself, please.
Gary Shapiro, I head the Consumer Technology Association. It's 2,000 tech companies, including Amazon, but you're only less than 1% of our revenue. So we are right in smack the middle of the Pentagon City on South East Street, and we have 200 employees there, and we own and produce the CES in Las Vegas, and we love what you're doing. Our employees are excited. About 40 of them are in front with signs welcoming you. We want to welcome you to the neighborhood. So we think it's great. The questions we're hearing from our employees are, when are these restaurants going to open up on these fast food places and good places to eat on that side of the thing? I live in the Bartlett, which is smack in the middle of two of your areas on that side. I have an apartment there. We're excited about that there, I'd say. Everyone's asking when the rents will go up, but any answers to that would be appreciated.
Good. Thank you, Gary. A little bit of softball. When are the restaurants coming? But there are other components of it. Let's take the third of three questions.
Hi, I'm Stuart Schwartz, Executive Director of the Coalition for Smarter Growth, longtime advocates for transit-oriented development, and it's wonderful to see Arlington's work, JBG Smith's work, vindicated, not to mention COGS, on transit-oriented development. I had a question for Amazon, for Holly. Number one was, I'd heard that there was significant transit benefits being provided to employees, non-drive benefits. I'd wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about what those are. And for Mark, I wanted to ask about thinking bigger about some of these transit connections. Why aren't we going to connect, say, Metro Way to Route 1 Transit? Why aren't we going to get across to Mr. Turner's County, perhaps, on the Wilson Bridge? Can we think more about those additional transit investments?
Great, thank you. And I got a question from the live stream to cap it off. And what is Amazon's commitment to sustainability in building, planning, retention of tree canopy? And does Amazon aim higher than LEED Silver? So thanks, Natasha, for that question. So I think stacking them up, I think Andy taking the first couple, size and scale when talking about amenities, and I think there's questions about transit-oriented development, transit benefits, and tree canopy sustainability for Holly. So Andy.
Sure. Yeah, we're working closely with Amazon's team. I mean, and I continue to marvel at this. It's only about 90 days ago that Amazon announced they were coming to Northern Virginia. So it feels like it's been a lifetime, at least for me, and it feels like there's enough news articles to stack this high. But they've gotten their team organized, and we're having early concept discussions. And part of that conversation is reviewing obviously what's approved at Penn Place, and then what are the heights and densities allowed at Met Park for number of stories, how does the open space configure, and we're really at those level of conversations, integrating how does Amazon think about its footprints, how do its teams want to work in this space, how do they move out of the building, because they obviously they travel between buildings a lot, as they go out through their day. How do we make that all work? And so I'd say it's TBD. It's all very early, studying and sketching on paper. But it is with a consideration of everything that's been out there. That PDSP has existed since 1967. It's been modified many times, millions of square feet of float all over. But it's something that we're certainly working within the approvals of Met Park and Penn Place. What else were there any other questions? Anything else I need to cover?
You get that one? I think
Okay.
let's go to Holly.
And I'll kind of answer two of the questions in a bundle, and then I'll talk about some of the benefits for you, Mr. Schwartz. So as Andy said, it is still very early in the process, and we're not like your typical company who, when we made a decision, we already knew what we were going to build. So we made a decision, and then now we're working backwards from that decision on what the buildings are going to look like. We didn't want to be. We think it's important to kind of integrate into what's already there, and I can tell you that out of the 20 locations, they all have unique qualities and unique architectural styles. So how do we fit into that neighborhood is what we're kind of doing right now. So when the restaurants open, we're hoping we're in our buildings by 2021, so we'll have some open then. And then it'll be, continual build-out phases from there. And I think we're going to be very well informed going through some of the site plan and planning process with Arlington, so we can make those good decisions and understand what are the amenities that are needed in the neighborhood. They're probably going to need to be a new vet and maybe a groomer for all of our dogs. But also, the restaurants and making sure there's the right mix of those restaurants also. And we like to make sure that the restaurants and the amenities, it's not open just in the day for Amazon employees, but it's open through the weekends and the evening too. So you're actually creating more of an 18-hour neighborhood for the residents that also will be living in the area. On the tree canopy, and sustainability, I'll kind of bundle that in together too. We have a deep commitment to sustainability. We have several buildings that are LEED, silver and gold and platinum certified at our Seattle campus. And as a company, we have a commitment to renewable energy also. We have 6 solar farms in the Commonwealth that many people might not be aware of. We made an announcement yesterday about our carbon, our packaging, really trying to reduce the carbon footprint there also. So sustainability is kind of who we are, and we tend to be a leader in that, and our headquarters will also be a leader on that. And we can't have green space without trees, so for me as an urban planner, they go hand in hand. So we'll absolutely have a commitment to ensuring that green space is open to the community, but also has the elements that's already in the neighborhood today. On the transit benefits, to be determined, but in Seattle, we do offer many transit benefits. When we are looking at really the campus of Crystal City and Pentagon City as that's built out, there's access to 3 different metros. You also have the VRE that has access there too, very pedestrian oriented. So in Seattle, over 50% of our employees use another mode of transportation than taking an automobile. We anticipate that to be even higher here. In addition, our parking ratios are going to be much lower, 1 per 1,000. So we're really committed to ensuring that it's pedestrian oriented. We take advantage of the transit system. The transit that's currently serving the area are 30% under capacity. So we think there's a great opportunity for us to use what's already in existence. And then thankful for the dollars of the Commonwealth, we can continue to reinvest in the infrastructure also in the area. We'll continue to monitor what mode of transportation our employees are using. So if there needs to be, additional benefits that we provide as a company, we've done so in Seattle, and we're committed to that.
Thank you. Just so happens that Chairman White and Vice Chairman Davis and the COG board approved creation of a tree canopy regional strategy group last week. So invite you all to participate in that. So live stream folks, you see how much of a difference your questions are making. Next topic is going to be around hiring, labor, and workforce. So questions around hiring, labor, and workforce, and I think these could be posed to both Amazon and JBG. Who has questions about that? Thank you. And is there a question over here? Let's get a couple stacked up.
I'm Sandra Borden in Crystal City. Just as a benefit to employees, I'd like you to describe what are your world-class health benefits I've heard about, because I'd like to promote it to students.
Good. I think that question maybe is an opportunity to talk about what's the package around being an Amazon employee. Yeah, that's right. All right. So labor, workforce, training. Yeah? Yes, please. You identify yourself, Heather?
Hi, yes, good evening. I'm Heather Peeler with Act for Alexandria. Thank you so much for being here. 2 questions. First, for Amazon, I'd love to hear a little bit about your commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion in your hiring practices and how you see that playing out here. And then for the other panelists, wanted to follow up on Councilmember White's question around maybe the non-technical or non-IT staff, and what are some of the ways you're anticipating partnering with the education systems or other nonprofit organizations to ensure that lower skilled employees also have opportunities?
Great. And Kim, why don't you cue her up?
Jennifer Owens with the Arlington Community Foundation. I'm curious, of the 25,000 employees, how many of those employees you feel already live in this region versus coming in, and what you expect that to do to potentially increase wages across the board here in the region?
That is almost word for word the question we got in from the live stream. What percentage of the 25,000 jobs that are coming to the area are new versus HQ job employees coming from Seattle?
I promise I didn't put it in and hedge my bet.
Will people in the DMV get any preferential treatment in hiring? So I think we've teed up a question here, and that question and question from, so I think going first to Amazon, and I think if there's questions that people want to ask about JBG, who's going to be doing all this building and construction? We'll get to that in a moment. So Holly?
I'll start with the benefits question. So we offer all of our employees any level, whether it's a corporate employee or a temporary associate. We have full benefits on day one. We also have a minimum wage at Amazon of $15 per hour. We were one of the leaders of that as a company, so that's really important, and that was based upon feedback from our employees that was important to them. As part of our benefits package, it's everything health, dental, et cetera, but we also have a unique parental leave program that is offered to all parents. And then if the spouse works at a different company and does not have leave on their company, we also have a share program where they can share their leave with that spouse also. So it's a great program and one we're really proud of.
Good. Other questions? If not, let me ask Andy, who's going to be building these buildings? What's the connection to labor? And what's the labor shed, if you will, that you'll be recruiting from to make this happen?
Yeah, I mean, as everyone may be aware, we are obviously building pretty robustly in the DC area. And so we've started early conversations about, who's going to be the workforce that builds these buildings. We have over 1,500 companies located within 50 miles of the headquarters. So obviously we have a great local workforce, and we really want to draw on that. And the conversations we've been having with Amazon is, how do we make sure we build it with these folks, not on their backs or anything like that. So we expect to have, great conversations with the contracting industry about, how does everyone make sure we have a living wage, how people are getting paid for the work they put in, how do we bid on a value opportunity rather than on pure price, so you kind of take that full basket of goods. And those are obviously, we said we're at 90 days in on concept drawings, so those are the kind of conversations we're already having, which is really exciting for us, I think, to make sure that everyone, gets lifted by this project.
And Chuck, I'll go back to the question about diversity and inclusion, and then also the local hiring question that came in online and from the audience. On diversity and inclusion, that's also a priority for us. We think it's very important to ensure that all of our employees have opportunity, but all the residents of the community also have an opportunity. One of the reasons we located here, and if you go back and look at our RFP and the RFI, which I can't remember if that was public now or not, but we asked a lot of questions about the diversity and the inclusiveness of the community. And that's really important to us because we hire people with all different types of backgrounds, all different types of education levels. So it's really important for them to be in a community that's welcoming and that we can hire from that diversity and inclusiveness. And the Washington, D.C. region ranks among one of the most diverse and inclusive neighborhoods. So we're really proud to be a part of that neighborhood. On the local hiring question, the 25,000. So there'll be a few people that may choose to relocate from our Seattle headquarters, but I think it's important to say this is not a relocation of our corporate employees from Seattle. The primary reason we're locating here is due to the talent, and so we hope to hire all 25,000 locally. Now, at the same time, we think we were prudent to make an investment, so it's behooves us and other companies to make sure that we're making investments to create that talent pipeline. But that also gets back to some of the programs I've talked about, our Amazon Future Engineers, of investing in students and programs that might not otherwise have the same career pathways. So that's all what's really important to us, and there's a great foundation already here that we learned from our economic development partners that we can build upon.
And just to answer the question about the pipeline that for people who just are in high school and don't necessarily want to finish a master's degree, GMU has this brilliant program with Northern Virginia Community College that I just learned about recently, and it starts with training people for very specific jobs with very specific core competencies, testing them, and then delivering them to the employer. This is already in place. These guys have been running this program, and they're looking to scale this program. It's a perfect integration for certain parts of Amazon. I can't describe it in great detail, but the way that they've designed it is it's so that a person can take certain courses, and those credits will stay solid when they go, if they want to go for an advanced degree. And if they don't, they can take an off-ramp and go to a job. And to me, that is an incredible opportunity. I have a lot of my nieces and nephews that decided not to go to college, and actually one of them happened to find his way into Amazon, and I know this is one of the things that's important to him, so I think it really offers a great opportunity.
Just add one more important piece. As we've talked about the tech talent pipeline, we've mostly talked about the higher education side of this, but one of the really exciting pieces of what the Commonwealth has committed is an investment in computer science education in the K through 12 pipeline. Virginia is one of the few states in the country that's really a leader in having computer science be a required part of the curriculum. I don't recall the exact numbers, but the funding that we're going to be providing for increased professional development for teachers related to computer science as well as online curricula will more than triple what the Commonwealth is currently doing, with the idea that we can get more students excited about these career paths, not just at Amazon, but at other tech companies as well, and have them really be prepared be able to take on computer science-related programs at the post-secondary level.
Thank you. And we talk about the labor shed, and this is perhaps a commercial for Amazon and JBG. But in my role, I work with a lot of mayors, and the mayor of Alexandria points out that the region's first bus rapid transit line goes right from Alexandria right into Crystal City. The mayor of Manassas says, you can get one-stop trip, isn't that the term, from Manassas right into Crystal City or Fredericksburg. And just about an hour ago, Councilmember Davis says he can get to Prince George's County in under 30 minutes. All right. Well, our time is quickly elapsing, but I'm going to ask each of you just for maybe a couple of minutes of wrap-up comments, either something reflecting on you've heard tonight or any parting words of wisdom. So let's start with you, Jeanette.
So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out, and I think this has been a really interesting conversation that reflects the concerns about what we need to do in order to be proactive and both take full advantage of the opportunities of Amazon and address existing needs that exist throughout our community that would continue to exist whether or not Amazon was here or not.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really exciting, and we talked about this, and David brought it up, right? Arlington and JBG Smith and Alexandria really do love to plan. But the more important thing of that is making sure you come up with a good plan and then implement it.
Yeah.
And so we look at the Crystal City sector plan, which was approved in 2010. We look at some of the other opportunities we've had, and really they've kind of been not moving forward. And so I think this is an amazing opportunity for all of us to say, capital improvement plans, all the transit infrastructure work, all the development opportunity that's available to realize the vision the community wanted starting in 06 and ending in 010, really can move forward. And I think that's a really exciting opportunity for us as builders, but also really exciting for the region to build back a place that really needs help right now.
I think, Chuck, what I get excited about, I was reflecting on when we started this process maybe 16, 17 months ago. I'm a former resident of Arlington, actually, but one of the things that really impressed me was how much this community has a very strong set of values about process, about planning, about sustainability. And at every step along the way, there was discussion about how do we make sure that if this moves forward here, that this will fit well with those values. And that was impressive to me, both from the community perspective, but what I also saw was that when we had our Arlington leaders sit with Amazon for the first time after we were down selected, it was clear that it also resonated with Amazon as well. And so two things I'm very excited about as we close tonight. One is just how aligned, the direction we want to take our economy, the direction that the community wants to go from a smart growth perspective, the direction Amazon wants to go. It's so synergistic. I think secondly, we haven't talked about tonight, but from a state perspective, we were so excited that prior to this, so many people looked at this region as a government town, and we are now regularly talked about as one of the great tech hubs in the world, and I think that's really exciting.
Thank you, Stephen. When you were talking about the engagement, and I think I saw about probably 15 or more civic neighborhood society presidents in the room, and they were, yeah, we do engage, we do talk. So thank you, Stephen. Holly, please.
There's the old saying that everything is local, and I'm a local. Most of our Amazon employees that are here tonight, there's a few of us sprinkled in, are local too, and I think that's important as we start this process together, is that we're truly going to be doing this together. We're going to be designing, we're going to be developing, we're going to be neighbors, and we're just really excited to locate here. More importantly, we're excited to start creating the jobs and helping to diversify this and investing in the partnerships that are available. So thank you for your attention. Thanks for spending your Thursday evening with us, and we really look forward to being your neighbor.
Thank you, Holly.
I want to begin by saying I appreciate the engagement process in Arlington. I've been here for 4 years now, and it is like no other place I've ever been, I'm telling you. And it's actually quite exciting sometimes, and sometimes it's not so exciting. But what I can say is that having worked around the region, I'm probably the only economic development professional that's worked on both sides of the river. I've worked in Maryland, in Prince George's County. I've worked in Washington, D.C. as deputy mayor, and now I'm here as director of economic development. And I can tell you one thing, we have more in common. We have more in common than we have differences. And what we need to do is start acting that way. And I think that Amazon has brought us there. I think that there's a collaborative spirit like never before. Our relationship with Arlington County when I got here was ugly, okay? It was not pretty at all. As a matter of fact, one of my staff persons says, we hate Alexandria. And I was like, you hate Alexandria? I said, they're your neighbor. I said, do you know what? I said, that's just the silliest thing in the world. I said, look, we're going to invite them to South by Southwest. We're going to invite them to Collision. We're going to bring them with us. And you know what? They said yes. And it totally changed our relationship. And thank God we had somebody like, Stephen Moray at the helm and at the state who made it a state collaboration. And I got to be honest with you, I think that the collaboration that we have right now is our power. I think that's what's going to set us apart from every region in the world. I do believe that this is a very special chemistry that, frankly, was coming along, but Amazon has ignited in a different way. And I think no matter what, and over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to look back at this moment and say, wow, wasn't that something? And I'm just glad to be part of it. So thank you for allowing me to serve you.
Thank you, Victor. That could be a great benediction for the region, but I'm just going to add some closing comments. I think I saw heads nodding about this regional collaboration from Mayor Meyer from the City of Fairfax, Mayor Tarter from the City of Falls Church. We've heard from our friends from the district and Prince George's County. There's some other subject matter experts in the room. If you have questions about transportation, there's a whole brain trust of transportation experts here in the second row. Kanti Srikanth, who directs the Transportation Planning Board, and Renee Hamilton from VDOT, and Monica Backman from Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. A lot of great housing advocates. We're going to need to be working together to rise to this opportunity and this challenge. So a reminder that there's information available on the Arlington County Amazon website. I think it's called Amazon. If you Google Amazon in Arlington, and Stephen, there's information on the state, the Commonwealth's website. We encourage everyone to follow the updates, and we'll post the live stream video of tonight's conversation on the COG website, mwcog.org. I'm aware, I read a great interview today. It was with Holly by BizNow. 1 week from today, BizNow will host their, I think they're calling it the Amazapalooza event with more than 700 people attending. So BizNow, you're welcome for that free commercial. In addition, I understand the Arlington County Board will be having a public hearing on March 16th on Arlington's proposed performance agreement. And I expect that there will be other opportunities for engagement over the course of time related to specific projects and site plans. I really want to thank all the panelists for your engagement in this robust discussion tonight. I want to offer a special thanks to George Mason University and Dr. Cabrera for your hospitality this evening. Just a world-class events management team. This concludes this conversation, but I know it will spur other conversations and plans. So thank you and good night.